So what if you had a character with Jotaro's stoic nature, a funky ass looking hat, some weird ass clothes, a really confusing backstory, and a stand. And then you make his backstory even more confusing by taking away his memories. You get Weather Report. And his stand, Weather Report. It's going to be really weird clarifying the name and the stand of the characters. It's going to be weird. To clarify, we're talking about the stand in this video, but since both of them have the same name, I might as well talk about Weather Report as well, in a brief little segment right here. Also, spoilers for part 6, just FYI. Domenico Pucci was born on June 5th, 1972, with his brother Enrico Pucci, the main villain of part 6. Weather's life was a tragic one. Mere hours after his birth, he was switched with a dead child to a different mother. His early life would be pretty normal. Well, normal in the fact that, you know, it's just the Jojo universe, but eventually, during his early teenage life, he would meet a woman. Weather Report would fall in love with this woman, but secretly unknowing to him, this woman would be his sister, Perla Pucci. Now here's the part where everything gets sad and depressing. You see, Pucci eventually figures this out using a little bit of information he's gathered from himself, and realizing that Weather was his twin brother, he would try to separate his sister and his brother from, you know, seeing each other, because that's just kind of weird. Why would siblings date each other? You know, Enrico had a good point, but then the point would eventually dissolve into panic. You see, Enrico would try to use a third-party investigation group to get them separated from each other. Well, that third-party investigation group would be linked with the KKK, and when the KKK found out that Wes was half black, or some type of darker-skinned ethnicity, he would be hanged. And he was. Unfortunately. Perla would eventually commit suicide after knowing this fact, after cutting him down from the tree that the KKK hanged Wes from. But guess what? Plot. Wes is not dead. He had survived. And shortly after this event, Pucci would be stabbed with the stand arrow. And since stands work in mysterious ways, once Pucci got a stand and survived, that means Weather would get a stand and survive. Now, kind of thinking about it, if Perla lived for like a couple seconds longer after the impact with the water, would she have gotten a stand? Because Jotaro got one and his mom got one after Dio got one, because he had Jonathan's body. That's a whole nother video on its own. Huh. Weird. But to conclude on this backstory, after gaining Weather Report, he would kill the people that tried to kill him, mainly the head boss of that organization. After succeeding, he would try to commit suicide, but fail 4 different times. Pucci then would give his brother mercy. In a sense, well, I interpreted it as giving him mercy, as he would take away his memories with Whitesnake, leading to the quiet and stoic Weather Report, who is in prison now. Well, with that out of the way, I can finally talk about the stand. Side note, Weather has a whole bunch of references to clothing brands for his names, very similar to other characters, since part 6 is just, hey, that character sounds very similar to a brand, because they are, because Araki said, this part's naming scheme is gonna be brands. Okay, now we're going to talk about the stand. Weather Report, the stand of Weather Report. Say that 10 times fast, I dare you. Weather Report's musical influence comes from the band Weather Report and the album Heavy Weather, but we'll get to that very soon since that is a different stand, I think. Kinda more of like an evolution, or maybe like the full potential of the stand, but we'll get to it. Araki states in the Jojo Veller for Weather Report, it's a stand that controls the weather, so I made it look like the clouds. I wanted to make frogs and all other sorts of stuff just kind of fall from the sky, maybe like a Beastmaster. Its host also wears a buffalo hat. Araki's a simple man, he likes simple things. So he made this stand very simple, very just kind of basic and bland, which honestly works for the stand. It looks like a cloud because it controls the weather. Very basic and very bland, but it honestly does work a lot. And to comment on the Beastmaster talk in that quote, it's actually pretty ingenious. Sometimes in nature, animals do get caught in hurricanes and tornadoes, and hundreds of miles away from that said tornado spot will just appear an animal from the sky, dropping and being killed on impact with the ground. So Araki basically killed 2 birds with 1 stone, making a stand that controls the weather and a stand that can make animals fall from the sky. Now, it's pretty obvious where the weather powers come from. As I previously stated, the band Weather Report. It's in the name. weather, to control the weather. But I do want to add something with this. It's not normal weather controlling abilities. In fiction, sometimes weather controlling abilities only stem to like, oh yeah, I can just make hurricanes, or I can control lightning and thunder. But in Weather Report's case, it's, well, to the extreme, being able to make extremely rare weather phenomenon to happen, from heating up the air around a person to make them combust, to raining frogs. Needless to say, Weather Report has a ridiculously powerful arsenal of weather type abilities. But I'm gonna add something to this. If Weather Report has all these ridiculously powerful abilities to control the weather, why was Weather Report in prison, and why wasn't Weather Report used more in the story? Well, I can answer the first question, jailhouse lock, the ability to erase a person's memory for a short period of time. Weather had a ridiculously powerful stand ability, and in combination with Jolene, they should have been able to do a lot of things together, but Araki didn't do that. Weather was just shoved off to the side with Weather Report. Now I get it. Weather Report's ability is ridiculously powerful and covers a massive range, so it can't be used in a lot of fights, but we do see something at the very end of the series. Weather Report can kind of control the oxygen in a room, meaning that, well, he can possibly just kind of kill a single person with pure oxygen if he wanted to. So it's kind of weird how Araki only used that at the very end of the story. But we'll talk about Emporio's Weather Report uses later on. But it's all fine. Yes, Weather Report's lack of weather reporting in the early story does suck, but he does get his own massive arc later on in the end of part 6. Personally speaking, the heavy weather arc is one of my favorite arcs in part 6 and all of Jojo, to be totally honest. I really like how Araki really fleshes out Weather Report's backstory with Pucci. Hell, even the Weather Report, the actual stand, gets kind of character development as it doesn't want Weather to commit suicide. Very few stands actually get this treatment in all of Jojo. To be honest, I think maybe a few off the top of my head are probably King Crimson, Star Platinum, maybe The World, and maybe Crazy Diamond, and Hierophant. You can't forget about Hierophant and Kakyoin. So I do personally think Araki was trying to do something here to the audience, showing that, well, Weather Report is kind of critical to a degree for Weather Report. And I do think I'm right because, well, right after the backstory is explained for Weather Report and Weather Report, we get Heavy Weather. Heavy Weather is the full realized potential of Weather Report. After Weather Report regains his memories, he, well, goes on a kind of a rampage using his stand. Heavy Weather's ability is to make subliminal messages through rainbows. Yes, I know that sounds really stupid, but it actually works stupidly well. Or coming in contact with the rainbow will make you a snail, but it's more viewing it that usually does it for you. Now, I really can't find anything for this stand. Araki really must have just went crazy with the idea of a Beastmaster with Heavy Weather. Even the album it's based off of doesn't really help its idea, so it must have been Araki's idea of just a Beastmaster once again. The Heavy Weather arc lasts for 13 chapters. And sadly, at the very end of it, due to his brother, Weather Report dies, sadly. But it's not the end for Weather Report. You see, Pucci actually saved Weather Report's stand, and lost it at the end of the fight, falling into the hands of the prisoner team. And at the very end of the series, it does get used to save the day. During the conflict of Pucci and Emporio, Pucci accidentally pushes in the disc of Weather Report into Emporio with Maiden Heaven, since Maiden Heaven still has the abilities of White Snake and Sea Moon, meaning that Emporio has two different stands now, Heavy Weather / Weather Report and Burning Down the House. This is the third instance of a stand user having two abilities, the first one being Dio, the second one being Rohan, and now 3 with Emporio. Emporio successfully does defeat Pucci in this fight, using Weather Report's secret ability of 100% pure oxygen. Now that does conclude everything for Heavy Weather and Weather Report, but this is a metas video, so put on that speculation cap because I'm about to speculate like a motherfucker. Does Emporio have the ability to control Weather Report / still have Weather Report? Now the only reason why I'm saying can Emporio control Weather Report is due to a kind of misinterpreted line at the very end of part 6. Emporio says, "I'm not controlling it. This is Weather's hidden ability." Now, I think this is referencing not the stand, but the 100% pure oxygen ability. Emporio probably only has the ability to turn it on / off, and this is only probably due to the fact that it's technically heavy weather, not weather report. It's kind of both of the stands at the same time due to, well, Pucci making a disc from, well, when weather report had heavy weather. So this means there is a second hidden ability to weather report, making this stand have either 2 stand variations and a hidden ability, or 3 variations of, well, just 1 stand. Well, does Emporio still have it after Pucci dies? The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because in Part 7 and Part 8, the Steel Ball Run universe, stand abilities that infect the environment still linger after the user dies. And usually in the original universe, that being Parts 1 through 6, when stand users die, the ability dies with them. But there are a few cases where this kind of rule disappears. Gold Experience and Crazy Diamond are probably the biggest examples of this, due to them being able to infect the environment with their abilities to a degree where technically at some point the objects they affect just kind of become part of the universe. Gold Experience making organs and body parts for regular people, well, those organs and body parts don't become what they originally were. You know, maybe some scrap pieces of bullets in a person's body, or, you know, maybe a wall inside your body that gets turned into, you know, an arm or a leg. Eventually just start to become, well, your organs again, and Gold Experience doesn't have the ability to reverse it. That same logic goes with Crazy Diamond. So this may be a case of, well, even after Made in Heaven / Whitesnake dies, the abilities of swapping a person's stand with a new one or placing 2 in one body may still linger after Pucci dies. And I do want to bring this up. Once Emporio sees his friends kind of rebirthed in this new universe, it starts to rain. Now, this could be for dramatic effect, but Emporio just gained Weather Report. It could be possibly a side effect of gaining Weather Report. You know, if you feel sad, it's gonna start to rain. If you're happy, it will be bright and sunny and warm. Now, that's heavy speculation on my part, but it could possibly be an example of, well, Emporio still having Weather Report / heavy weather. Well, that's all for Weather Report and heavy weather. So this is the end of the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.